So guys, this is my hypervisor here. I have the management server, so if I want to have SSH access to any other server here, I have to go through first, I have to log in through SSH to the management server, and then I can have access to any other server. So I can branch inside of the management server, I can branch to any other server through SSH. If you are doing this into production, I would even go one step further, and well, you have to use keys, of course, for SSH. But I would go one step further and actually put this, bind the SSH socket to a VPN IP address. So only people inside of the VPN can even try to connect to SSH. People on the internet cannot even see the SSH server. Okay, so that would be the ideal world if you are doing this publicly. If you are doing this on the internet. And then once you are inside, you can branch to any other server. You still have to put a passphrase though, so it's not like really open once you are inside. You still have to input the credentials to access. Then we have the firewall. This is pretty straightforward. This is just PFSense running here. As you can see, I'm just clean this. There we go. You can see the networks right there. We're gonna go in depth, like in future videos, like in each server, and see how it's configured and what it's doing. But I'm just being really brief now, just showing the servers, a really basic overview, because otherwise the video is gonna take too long and it's gonna be really boring. So this is the firewall. You could see my WAN interface is my NAT interface on my host, which has that IP. Then we have the LAN, which is the management network on that diagram, on my network diagram. We have the infrastructure, which contains the name server, the DNS server, the NTP server, and the DHCP server. And then we have the lab one, which is just a network for workstations. So workers working there, those workstations will get a dynamic IP address through the DHCP server. And we have the services, which is a network will contain internal services for the company. So if a company has a web portal that every employee needs to access, would be on this network. Then we have the internal one that is really close to services, but it's for services that are publicly accessible through the internet. So it's a little bit more dangerous. So that's why I'm putting in a separate network and a separate VLAN, if you will, so that if that gets compromised, it does not transfer to internal services network. Then we have the monitoring network. So the MNTR is monitoring, okay? Just a short term, and it's just for monitoring. So I have there the syslog server, and then I have another server which is running Prometheus and in Grafana. So let's take a look on that. So if I go, I can just type mon01 for monitoring, privnet.local, and its Grafana is running on 3000, and it's an HTTPS. So I did upgrade this to HTTPS. As you could see, I did create a certificate and signed with my certificate authority there, so the connection is trusted by the web browser. And I will go here and here. Go to the dashboard, and it's right here, Node Explorer full. There we go. So we have some metrics here. We could see the memory, the disk, the network traffic, CPU basic. This is for the DHCP server, but I could, you could have all the servers here. I'm just having the most important ones for me, like the DNS. Really critical that the DNS stays active. If the DNS, especially because there is no redundancy. If we had like an hypervisor with more memory, definitely have two servers. That's why I have this naming convention here, NS01. So I could have an O2, for example, or whatever, how many I would need. So that's it. I could check the CPU status. Now it's a little bit buggy here, has no data, probably because the VM is struggling. Okay, you would have to give more resources, right? After all, a VM, it's doing too much with very little resources. Here we can see the time synchronization, so that's pretty nice. Network traffic, can't really see, it says no data, but it actually has the data on the Prometheus database, it's not just displaying it. Memory, so you could see here the dirty, memory marked dirty, okay? So this is how I monitor the server. I could see if the server is offline. and here you have. So there is no graph here, so these big spikes here, every place you could see. This means what? This means that the server was offline. Just that. It's really easy, because there is no data. So we could see how many times it was offline, because I could just see here and calculate, okay, it wasn't able to get the metrics during this period, so it was offline. For seeing the logs, I could log in into the log server. So if I do SSH here from my management, that's the host name of the server, and I'm logged in. And I could just use tail here to basically see in real time the logs. So var log syslog. This will show me every single thing for any server. So you could see this is the server name. So in my case, it's its own server, and then it's the process, which is the systemd, and then whatever. So for example, if I split my terminal and I log in into my management server again from my host, I cannot type today. There we go. You see there, oh, management server here. I log from it, saying that the session was started with a sysadmin user. Someone's logged in. Careful, it's an attacker. Just kidding. But you get the idea. I can now, I don't know, log into my DNS server. Look at that. I could check let me get my database, my forward zone. Okay, so etc bind, that's the program I'm using to run the DNS server on Linux, and I can print my forward zone. So which is privnet local, and it's just basically a file containing all the records for the forward lookup zone. And you could see, so NS1, it's mapped to this IP address. It's an IPv4 entry. They are all IPv4 entries here. So we have some host names mapping to the correct IP. The correct IPs. The reason that they are registered on the lookup zone, forward lookup zone, is because they are static, right? They are not from the DHCP. DHCP will handle that hostname dynamically and the IP address. But because they are static, they are the same everywhere, so I could just map it into the forward lookup zone here, and that's nice. Also has the reverse zone, lookup zone, but again, it doesn't really need too much, because this is just from the local network anyways, but there is the PTR record, right? Well, important if you are setting up emails on the internet, you have to ask your provider, whatever, to set a PTR record for your mail server, otherwise you could have a better email reputation if you do that, obviously. So that's it, guys. I want to show you is this. Here are the firewall rules, as you could see. So from the infra, for example, you could see that I'm allowing any host here, any server on the infra to access my internal DNS servers, but I'm only allowing here only the DNS servers, my DNS servers, allowing DNS access to external DNS access, sorry. So you could see my DNS server actually forwards the queries to Cloudflare and then Quad9. So it's allowed to forward, but only the DNS server. Every single other host on this network and any other networks can only request DNS resolution to my internal one. So the traffic is forced through it. If they, on their workstations, change that for, I don't know, some public DNS server, it will fail, because the firewall will block that connection. So this is a good way to prevent, malware, for example. If malware it's sending traffic over, UDP 53, trying to masquerade as a DNS traffic, or NTP 123, it will fail, because it will have to communicate to a public C2 IP address, and basically it can't. The only thing that can go freely on the internet is basically the HTTPS traffic, because if you need website access, it's really hard to basically control that. You could control with domains, but again, it's really I don't think it's really worth it. I guess you could put a device to do content inspection of the HTTPS traffic, and then look for something out of pattern, and then flag it as potential malware or something. But that will require a VM with a lot of resources to do that, especially if you have a lot of networks, a lot of servers and computers on your company, all going through that content inspection service device. So yeah, it's no, not the resources that I have. But if you are serious about security, you would do that. You would, or even PFSense has like Snort and something like that. But again, we're not going into those waters now. Here we have a bunch of more servers. So this is DNS resolution. This is for the DHCP server. This is a Docker machine that has a bunch of Docker containers that I was playing about. This is actually on the lab network, so it gets a DHCP IP dynamically. Then we have another workstation, WSO1. This is an app, is running a portal. NTP server, this is a log server that we just saw all the logs there. Actually, if we go here, you can see more logs here, even from the DHCP server. We could see interrupt took too long, so something that we may take a look to see if it's something important. This is just taking too long because, again, the machine has low resources, so nothing to really worry about in this situation. We have here the DNS server. Oh, look at this. This is saying that the timed out a query. So this is important. This means that the DNS server became unresponsive. That's why you should have always a backup, a redundant DNS server. Unfortunately, I don't have the resources to do that here with this with my host setup, but you would have to do this, you know. So if this fails, it can immediately go to the second one. This is the Grafana, the management. You see, really good to have all of this in one place to look at. And in the future, I want to basically have like a web interface here that I could see it better. Grafana is just for monitoring it. This server here, I'm gonna close this. You should not do that. You should actually close the sessions. But okay. The mail server, and this is the most important, the root server, guys. This is like the heart of the company, or the encryption of your company's network. If someone gets a hand on this, it's game over. They can basically decrypt all the traffic. They can, you know, sign fake certificates and will look legitimate. So you want to really have good security here. I would recommend you, when you install, in this case I install Debian net, install image, and I recommend you download the latest, check the download, check the checksum to make sure that it's the original the original ISO, and then do not attach any NIC to this virtual machine, because it doesn't need. When you install Debian, even running offline with just basic utilities, OpenSSL will be there. You don't need anything more. Just like to have to create a certificate authority and, you know, create certificates for apps, everything. You just need OpenSSL. You don't need internet connectivity. So this machine should never have a NIC there. You install base Debian, really basic. You access through the console here, and you generate the certificates. And then when you don't need it anymore, keep it offline always. Just boot this up if you need to generate another certificate. For example, I have an app running here that is not encrypted, it's just HTTP. Now we'll need to create a certificate for this app. So I would boot this up, create the signing request, sign with the CA private key, and then pass the certificate to this machine. And in this case, it's running Apache here. I would configure Apache to use the SSL cert and the app private key. Okay, and I will immediately turn this off and never turn on again until I need to create another certificate. Okay. One thing I would recommend also is that the disk of this VM, particularly, the disk drive of this VM should be encrypted. Even offline, someone somehow could get, you know, the disk image, could get the disk data, and if the disk is encrypted, they will have a hard time. So, good idea to encrypt the disk. And yeah, don't attach any network card on it. If you want to pass the certificate from this machine to the other machines, like ESXi console, you cannot really copy and paste, which is unfortunate. but you can just create a virtual hard disk attached to this CA server, put the certificate, a copy of it, and the private key on that new disk, shut down this machine, attach that disk to the server you want to copy the certificate, and then after you copy, you remove the disk and you will wipe the disk completely. Okay, don't reuse again, because getting the disk could be infected. The disk getting infected from this server is really low because it doesn't have internet access. From the ISO install never had, so it's really something in the hypervisor, which is kind of rare. But getting infected from the server that we'll actually use is a server that is connected to the internet, so the risk is higher. So that's why once you connect that disk, you have to assume that the disk could be infected somehow. So for that reason, after the disconnection of the disk, you completely wipe it. So if you need to pass another certificate, create a new disk. This is really easy to do, especially in hypervisor. It's really fast. But that's it, guys. This is just this is my Homelab. It's Linux based. It's really basic. It doesn't have a lot of VMs, but I think it has what is essential. Has logs to see what is wrong. Has a way of visualizing the metrics of the servers if you need to increase more memory. Well, ESXi also gives you that status, but it's better to have much more detail with Grafana and Prometheus. You have your own certificate authority, so you can issue certificates to your company. You have different networks to isolate, basically, to isolate your services, your machines. You have a good firewall. PFSense is really good. It's really amazing, actually. And you have the management server that basically is a server that it's kind of acting as a reverse proxy for SSH. You might think, I don't know how to think about, but there is like a reverse proxy for SSH. So the entry port is here. This has to be really secure. And that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will make more videos like specific with each server, because each server has a lot of stuff to talk about. Tips that I can give to you if you want to implement this in real life. So yeah, here I just can't talk in this video. This video is already too long, so I will have to edit this thing. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and stay safe, guys.